Sex. Good, I got your attention. I'm going to talk about delivery. I read the book, Speaker's Textbook Guide and whatnot, to find out how to give the proper kind of delivery for a speech. And through chapters 19 to 20, I have these following notes. I'm going to talk about things that are important via your mind, what's important via your body, and what's important via your voice. Because all three of those are very, very important to giving a speech that the audience will listen to. Your delivery is key. First, I'm going to talk about the main points of your mind. You have to act natural. If I stand up here and I'm stiff and I talk to you like a robot, you're not going to want to listen to me because that sounds fake. And nobody wants to listen to a fake person. That's just its human nature. Second of all, be confident. If I came up here and I was full of ums and buts and shuffling out through my notes and didn't know what I was talking about, you'd probably look at me and think this guy has no idea what's going on, and you'd stop listening to me. Third, don't beat around the bush, be direct. I could tell you this whole long story. I could use an analogy. I could make stuff up to try to get to my points. But ultimately, that's moot, because you don't want to hear the story. You want to hear the subject of my presentation, which is delivery. And finally, broadcast enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is like a disease. It's contagious. If I'm excited about what I'm talking about, you'll want to listen to me. It's that simple. And to talk about enthusiasm, I could make my PowerPoint. Be natural, be confident, be direct, be enthusiastic. But even the simple words on my board are so much more interesting when you can see differences. Usually they all start with B and they're, it's 2 words per bullet, or little sentences and snippets. That's far more interesting. That's enthusiasm right there on the page. Now I'm going to talk about the kinds of speaking that you can do when doing delivery. First, you have manuscript, which is there's something written on a paper and you're reading it directly off the paper. If you've watched President Obama speak, you'll notice he has the teleprompter, which is a screen, and he reads his speech right off that teleprompter. There's no improv, there's no nothing, it's right off the speech. You can do a speech from memory, which is where every single thing is memorized, and chances are you probably don't have a PowerPoint, you're just standing up, giving a talk, and that's it. Second is impromptu, which is where somebody says, hey, you, I want you to give a speech right here. Talk about cats, or beer, or whatever you want to talk about. But point being, you don't have any prep time whatsoever. And finally, we have extemporaneous, which is what I'm doing right here and what we're supposed to be doing as a class, which is where you study a speech, you study the materials, you have notes for yourself, but you can't read the notes because that defeats the purpose. I'm going to talk to you about your voice, because as important as your mind is and how you're speaking, the voice itself is what carries your message. First off, you have to use volume control. If I talk like this the entire time, you're going to get really bored and it's going to hurt your ears, isn't it? If I talk like this, you can't hear me. But at the same time, if I use the same tone of voice the entire way through, it gets boring. Again, I could talk like this and it's just the same. You have to be able to create fluctuations. You have to be excited and loud or quiet and sad. Same with your change of tone. That goes back into your voice. The tone is what conveys your message. It goes back to enthusiasm from earlier. If you're excited about something, you might talk a little louder, but there's nothing wrong with being a little bit louder. Just don't yell at your audience. And then you have to adjust your speaking rate. As you know from my previous speeches, I have a tendency to talk a bit fast. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be awful. For example, if I'm talking to a group of really old people, they just don't process words the same speed we do. So if I talk too fast, they can't hear me, and they can't comprehend what I'm saying. But if I talk to a group of young people too slowly, they'll get bored. And you notice that boredom is a theme I keep bringing up. That's because it's really important that you keep your audience interested. Otherwise, the entire speech is moot. Finally, articulation and pronunciation. I have to say my words properly. Otherwise, you get lost. If I called it, earlier when I did extemporaneous, if I said extemporaneous, or put the syllable somewhere else, just called it something really weird, you'd look at me and you'd think, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He has no clue what's going on here. And at that point, you would tone out. You'd be like, okay, this guy has no idea what's going on, doesn't know what's up, I don't care. Finally, your body. I have to make my message clear to you that I am open about this. If I spent my entire presentation standing like this, or like this, talking to the board, keeping my arms closed, you don't want to listen, because it looks like I don't care about you, does it? Now, if I have my arms open, if I'm wide, even if I could walk down this aisle and back up as I'm giving my speech, It shows that I'm open to the audience, that I want to talk, that I want to give my presentation. Brings the audience in towards me. Body language goes back to the clear message. Again, if I'm like this, it's closed. However, not only is my body language important, but so is yours. If I see, if I'm giving a speech on how to make money, and I'm trying to make it entertaining, people want to listen. But if I look out in my crowd and I notice that every single person out there is on their smartphone, then my message isn't getting to them because they're clearly not paying attention to me. So I must pay attention to what my audience is doing, how their body is reacting. Because whether or not you realize it, how you feel about something is displayed by everything that you do. Finally, my ethos. I have to know what's going on. If I don't know what's going on, there's no point. I have to make it clear to my audience that I know what's happening. I have to make it clear that I know what I'm talking about, that I've been prepared, that I know everything I could know. Otherwise, again, like I've said before, it's moot. You have to know your material. You have to know your stuff. In summary, I went over what to do with your mind, your body, and your voice. Any questions?